You are a for-profit business. You need to make money. So would you be upset if you said $1 million, but you only made 500,000?
Welcome to the Create with Charles podcast, where we help creators turn their passion into profit. With me, I have Abby McPherson back from Dubai like she never left, here to give us some game on how to take control of our pricing strategy in 2025. Abby, welcome back. Appreciate you, as always. So let's just jump right in. Why do you think so many creators are afraid to charge what they're worth?
I think a lot of creators are afraid to charge what they're worth because they're basing it on their perception of their skill level. So they are always thinking about, oh, well, I'm not as good as other people. So we also have the comparison combined with the imposter syndrome, which allows them to create a space where they can devalue themselves. So because I'm comparing myself to, let's say you, right? And I'm just saying, oh, well, I just got this camera. I don't really know how to fix it. We're trying to evaluate what we think that we can do with pricing. And it's almost like we think that the client knows how long we've been doing this.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily recall having anybody that I've done work for ask me, well, how long have you had this camera? Or how long have you been a creator for? So they're validating their skill level with the equivalent of what they feel like they should be paid.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I definitely have imposter syndrome. I know a lot of minorities and women in particular struggle with imposter syndrome. Like, how are you overcoming imposter syndrome in your business? Like, is that intentional mental work that you're doing? Or are you even aware sometimes when imposter syndrome shows up when it comes to pricing your services? Or like, how are you combating imposter syndrome? Let me ask you something. Are you tired of spinning your wheels creating content that nobody sees? I get it, and I've been there. But here's the thing. Once I developed a content strategy, I went from struggling to get views to growing over 25,000 followers on Instagram. Now, I'm not telling you this to impress you, but I am telling this to impress upon you what's possible when you get super clear about your content approach. And that's why I created the Content Clarity Roadmap. It's an AI-powered tool that helps you create content that speaks directly to your target audience and helps you come up with unlimited content ideas. And here's the thing, it's only going to cost you your email. So I went ahead and dropped the link in the description. If you want to stop guessing and start growing, if you want to be committed to creating content that makes an impact on your audience, then now's the time to get the Content Clarity Roadmap. Link below.
I think it just takes a level of boldness that you have to take eventually. So just like when growing up, you can't be scared. If children were scared to walk and they decided just to crawl because they were just comfortable crawling, they would never walk or run and things of that nature. So at some point in time, you can have areas of comfort, but you have to get uncomfortable with it, or things in life are going to continue to happen and you won't be able to afford it, or you won't be able to upgrade that particular equipment, or, you'll just stay stagnant. So there's a certain level of boldness that has to come with it so that you can level up, not only just like your skill base, but your pricing. Because if you also are not challenged by the work, so let's say you take on something, it's above your skill level. They can either love it, it can be okay, or they can hate it.
That's true.
But there's growth in the project in and of itself. Whether they praise you for what you've done and you're like, oh man, that was I could have done so much better. Or they're saying, you know what, it was fine, but you fell short in these areas. That's area for improvement. And then that leaves you room. If people are unhappy, just think about the return policy, right? So if people are unhappy, hopefully it doesn't come to that point, but you can make room in your pricing to where it's just like, well, if they're unhappy, I give them their money back so that you don't get poor reviews. But if you don't stretch yourself at some point in time, you're going to either just pretty much take yourself out of the mix altogether, or you're going to be so unhappy with the mundane that you quit altogether. You see how many people like just selling all their gear just because? It's not necessarily always tied to pricing, but things can tie to hardship. They can tie to overwhelm. But a lot of those things can be rectified when it comes to where you're challenged enough and you're being compensated appropriately.
That's really good. And I think challenging yourself is a big part of even feeling fulfilled in what you do. One of the ways that I'm dealing with imposter syndrome is taking the focus off of me and my skill set and just focusing completely on my client, focusing on meeting their needs. And I think when you become more focused on the project, more focused on your client, you don't have time to worry about, oh, am I good enough? You're just getting the work done. And I think that is a key
I'm going to interrupt you there because that's a good point. I think imposter syndrome is just being selfish. It's selfish. Oh, I don't think I can do so. I don't think I. If you can solve a problem for a particular client or business or whatever, if you can give them what they need, if you can help, close the gap or deliver a particular solution, it's not about you. And I think that is very, very key. So a lot of times imposter syndrome gets the shine, it gets the highlight, but it's selfish. And we have to stop being so selfish, but we can also be truthful because a part of that selflessness is telling somebody you can't do it. We wouldn't have so much imposter syndrome if we weren't being truthful. So if you're truthful that you can actually solve the solution, and you can be truthful in the fact that that's where I'm cool with varying the price. You can be very honest. This is going to be my first time doing this. If you're still comfortable with me doing it, I'm comfortable, doing it. And you all can negotiate in that area, saying, I'm experimenting, I'm learning, being honest with your client. But if you take on a gig that you cannot perform, imposter syndrome is going to be through the roof. And you might risk not performing to your best level and the client be unhappy.
Yeah, that's good. I actually did a Bible study or a talk for a men's group on how imposter syndrome is linked to pride. And so it's interesting you said the selfishness because I think there is a correlation to having a sense of pride and imposter syndrome being because you don't think you're as good as you should be. And sometimes we have an inflated view of where we should be when we haven't put the work in. And I think that that's a good segue to like the question of like, when do you start charging for your work? From my perspective, well, I'll say I didn't start charging for my work until I could produce the transformation I wanted in myself. If I'm putting out content and I want it to look a certain way, once I dial that in, then I can say, okay, I can help someone else do that. But if my content still looks like trash to me, like why would I charge somebody? And I can't even get that transformation I can't solve my own problem.
What I'm going to say to that is that we still had that selfish element in it. If it looks like trash to you.
To me, but what I mean is that I'm not solving my problem.
So here's what I say to that. Your problem might be up here, but we have both interacted with people who don't know how to open Instagram.
Yeah.
So if you are not at the level that you want, solve simpler problems. Because there's always somebody at step one. So I've seen very interesting things where people are charging astronomical amounts of money for things that are just very, very simple. So what I would say to that is you can start charging today if you felt like it. When people are unhappy, you get the feedback on if you should be charging that particular rate, if you need to lower it, if you need to practice a little bit more. That gives you the barometer of it. So honestly, you should start collecting and having pricing. You can do that day one. The difference is how many people are telling you yes and how many people are telling you no. But there's always going to be a demographic that needs the very simplest of things. We have people who are young, who are getting older. We have people who are getting older and the new technology is coming out and things are changing every single day. Waiting to get to the level that you want when we are challenged every single day with new methods and techniques just delays your opportunity to help you earn more money. Because where are you going? If the constant battle is always with yourself, you're never going to arrive anywhere. But you can start solving simpler problems at a rate that can at least help you fund your self-discovery.
I think we're saying the same thing. I think my point is that you have to be able to solve a problem first before you start charging for it. Is where I'm at, right? So I know that we all have our own perspective on what we think is good quality and what's not. I think that's subjective, but a lot of times your clients have a particular need.
Yes.
Right? It's not so much subjective. It's like, hey, I need this. And it's typically around a problem, something that they can't do, something they don't want to do. If you can't do it for yourself, why are you charging? Right? I think that's kind of where I lean. There are people who pick up a camera day one and say, okay, I'm going to just charge people for videos. It's like, but you haven't put the time in to even learn how to do lighting or the time in to understand camera settings. Why are you charging? Do you know what I'm saying? And some people do it. And I think that leads to, in certain industries, it may lead to people being jaded, right? With, we got these, for example, in the social media industry, we have people who teach courses or provide products, but you can tell when you take the course that they don't really know what they're doing. And so because they're charging you for it, and plenty of people are like, this is not a great product, it doesn't solve my needs, it doesn't solve my problems, it makes it harder for the next person who comes behind you who actually can solve your problem for you to want to work with them.
What I saw is that it definitely takes a level of integrity.
Yeah.
The only pushback I have about meeting your own needs or solving your own problems is if the target demographic is you. Are you serving you? A lot of times, even with the clients that I have and the things that I do, they don't understand half of the things that I do and incorporate to help them solve that particular problem. I think that you should be able to deliver a specific result, of course. Right. But a lot of times, you do have to have the integrity to ensure that you can perform what you're asking them for. There's some things that I just don't need for me.
Gotcha.
So I don't have to perfect it for me personally to say, their problem is my problem, but I want to ensure that it is at least similar. So being able to produce a quality result that is similar to what the client needs for yourself, I think that we can agree on that.
Gotcha. I think that's good. I think that you're right that we don't always share the same problems and needs as our potential client. But then at the same time, how do you know when you can deliver the result for that client? And I think if you've never, and I guess this is the caveat, if you've never produced or if you've never solved that problem for someone else, I don't think you should charge them either. I think you should do free work until you have demonstrated the ability to provide that transformation or solve that problem for someone else before you charge.
What I'll say is I'm very cautious now of that free phrase. I believe I believe that there's a level of value exchange for every interaction. So positioning yourself in the mindset of I'm going to go do this for free leaves you almost at a deficit, even if it's for the experience, right? So I would reframe that to say, I would find the opportunity to deliver this for value exchange. Maybe the value exchange is being able to use their facility. Maybe the value exchange is being able to use their equipment. Maybe the value exchange is just for the experience. But always thinking free, you are getting something out of it. So you can even say free, but you're telling yourself, I'm doing this for the experience.
When I say free, I just mean monetarily. But like you said, you're getting experience, Correct. You're getting testimonials. The thing about doing free work is that, or monetarily free work, is that all work works. I'm studying that from Myron Goldman. So whatever you're doing for free, you can use to generate more business down the line.
Correct.
Right? So in my mind, it's never no value exchange when you're doing free work. It's just that, what is the fair rate that you should charge when you haven't demonstrated that you can, meet this need or provide this transformation or whatever in your potential client? And so I think a lot of people struggle with that because they struggle with their pricing because some of it is not imposter syndrome. Some of it is that you just ain't done it. Some of it is like, I don't know if I can do this. And so it's like, if you're in that position for someone, I guess that's the advice I want to give, is that if you're in a position where this is something completely new, this is something you've never done before, that providing free work isn't a bad thing. And like you said, there is a value exchange. It's just reframing it. And it may not take like more than one free gig to say, okay, now I can start charging. It may just be that one free gig gives you the confidence. I think Omar, he talked about belief and how you can build belief brick by brick. And there's like 3 ways to do it. One was building your belief in yourself brick by brick. Like, doing the work, demonstrating that you can actually do what you say you can do. Another one was borrowing belief. And the third one was buying belief, where you invest in yourself. And it could be a coaching program, whatever, to kind of give you that confidence in the knowledge that you can actually do this, And so I think some people, it's not imposter syndrome. They just haven't bought or borrowed belief that allows them to charge for their services.
No, I think that those are all actually very key. Here's an example that I'll share with you. When I was building up my confidence and my skills when it came to video, I had a job. I was a physical education teacher. And I've always been fairly creative, but when I had the opportunity to invest in some coaching, to invest in some equipment, I used that skill to build. I used the information I was getting to use it in the area that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to create videos for my classroom, for my kids, for my school, to build out the confidence that I could create. So what I'll say to that is that, yes, you look for the opportunities to do things for free, if you will, in your environments that you do. You don't have to necessarily go door to door and knock on businesses and say, I want to do something free for you. Where do you currently work? So hopefully you haven't quit your job and everything right now and just, I'm gonna become a full-time content creator and just offer some things up for free, and then hopefully money falls out the sky. But think of the ways and the areas in your life that whatever skill that you have can create solutions in your actual environment. And once you get more feedback and things like that from maybe your family or your friends on how effective it has been, that's when you can package that thing up and start offering it to other people for a rate. So when it comes down to it, yes, there are things in your life that you can make solutions for yourself. Just right back to what you were saying, you can solve your own problems. It doesn't just have to be video related. So maybe you find a new way to wash dishes or your car or whatever it is, but solving those particular problems and packaging up the solution and selling it for a fee.
Yeah. And just one more thing. I think the reason why I think it's important to solve your own problems too, when it's applicable, is because it helps give you another level of credibility. When you're trying to package your services, sell your services, if you can show your results or client results, those they help phenomenally in building credibility. And so sometimes you may not always have client results, but if you have results for yourself, when applicable, that is a way to kind of hack credibility so that people can say, so for example, like for me, I help people grow an audience on social media. I have an account, multiple accounts, over 10,000 followers. So that gives me some credibility in that space that, hey, I was able to solve my own problem, which was I was trying to grow an audience.
Right.
But not everything, like you said, is going to be a problem that you particularly have. And I think that was an awesome point where it doesn't necessarily have to be you solve the problem for a client or you start a business and go find clients, but you can start with your network of people, your family, your friends, start doing things for them and then building up testimonials and credibility that way. And then package that up and put that out as a business.
So pretty much you're your own first client.
There you go. My last question in this area is like, what is the biggest mind shift that you made when it comes to pricing your services that has helped your business?
The biggest mindset shift came from actually like my business coach, understanding that what you are making is not necessarily just for you. So he said it very distinctly. You are a for-profit business. You need to make money. So a lot of times we think of the rates that we're charging as just for self. I'm going to charge $500 for this project. And we forget that that $500 technically should not just go in our personal, say, Abby account. We have to have different line items that help support the business. If you are a business, it's one thing to be like a freelancer or a contractor, but if you are a business, your rates need to go according to help you run that particular business. If you need upgrades, if you need travel expenses, if you need, new equipment, taxes. If you're just taking the money that you make from a certain place and it's just going into your personal pocket and nothing goes into the business, you're in a world of trouble. So my biggest mindset shift is that it's not just about me. It's about me. It's about the business. It's about the people that I can potentially hire to help me in the future, to help me continue to deliver these solutions to clients. So once I remembered, or it was brought to my attention that the numbers have to make sense in order for you to be able to maintain an actual business, or you're just a freelancer.
Yeah, that's good. So it's like that. It seems like that mindset can counteract undercharging or always taking discounts, because if your business is not making profit, you can't stay in business and you can't continue to help the next person. You can't continue to help.
You can't help yourself.
You can't. Well, that obviously that too. But I'm just saying, in a grander scale, it's like you can't even help other people if you can't stay in business, right?
Well, and think about it, right? How you run yourself down. A lot of times, another mindset shift is that it's not about just what I can do. It's about what I'm fulfilling. So you need to almost break down, if you're in the media or content creation space, you have to break down how many different roles or jobs you're doing. You might be able, I can do a lot, I'm an editor, I'm a videographer, I'm a photographer. I can do strategy, all these different things. When I understood that these are roles that other people, individuals could do, and that if it wasn't just me, the quote unquote all in one, so we try to just pay ourselves as an all in one, which is greatly undervaluing ourselves. So, how you have to break it down is whatever project that you're looking into, how many different roles would that be typically? And what rates would you pay these three individuals? So you have to have that particular pricing in mind. And what if you need some extra help? Now you actually have the line item to go out and find somebody who can come and be your personal assistant. Find somebody who can be your second videographer instead of just saying, I can do everything. What happens if you get sick? What happens if something else happens? What happens if you don't want to be the only person on site and you want somebody to come and watch your equipment while you do your thing? So there's certain levels of peace of mind that come into projects when it comes to pricing that we have to incorporate to grow as a business.
That's good. That's good. Especially when I think the part you said about different roles is like, even though you're a one-man band, you should be charging as if you have a team.
Absolutely.
Because the goal essentially is to have a team and not do all the work yourself. And you need the ability to be able to pay them and your clients be adjusted to that kind of pricing.
And you can give them a new experience.
Yeah.
There might be something that you can turn around even faster. So I just got off a sprint for creating, and I was able to bring on a second shooter, but I was like, at minimum moving forward, I needed at least a 3-person team because we were running ragged all over the place, which it was fine. We were able to accomplish what we accomplished. But as I was debriefing the event, I was like, there's a few more places that I could have been more efficient if I had an extra body. Somebody to either wash the equipment or do the running back and forth or go and get me something to eat or edit for me. But it was just like, at this point, I don't know if y'all can tell, but I'm worn out right now. But just understanding that, and sometimes you have to live through things. So your mindset and your rates change a lot after you've gone through the experience. You're like, I will never not charge well, not necessarily not charge appropriately, but I don't want to receive that particular amount for what I just did. So either if I'm going to get that amount, I'm going to do way less, or I'm going to charge to where I can get the necessary assets, equipment, and individuals that I need to do what I need to do.
That's good. You know, we talk all the time, and you shared with me a 3-step pricing formula that I think was genius, and I just want to make sure we share that with everyone else. So can you break that down for us? Like, what's step 1 of your formula?
So step 1 is for you to decide how much money you want to make in a year. So you're going to go ahead and sit down with the numbers, figure out what your monthly expenses are, and maybe you want to take a vacation, but come up with that number. So let's just start off with, say, like $100,000. And this will be able to take care of all of the things that you need to. So make sure you have that number, and please do not be modest.
So after we get that annual income figured out, right? And for me, I'm trying to make $1 million. I'm trying, like, we talk about being modest. Like, I'm not trying to just factor in how much my bills are. I want a better quality of life, right?
But this is the thing. This is
right.
How we do stuff. So would you be upset if you said $1 million, but you only made $500,000?
I wouldn't be, but that's why I'm setting my goals more lofty, right? Also, I want to factor in what I want to do with my business. Like, the annual income is not just like what my take home is. It's also like where I want my business to grow to. Which
is what we're going to get to in the rest of the steps as well.
Okay. So what's step 2?
Well, for step 2, after you have the number that you want to make in a year, you're going to divide that by the 12 months in a year. But then not only that, you want to break down how many days in a month you want to work. So another benefit of having a business is being able to almost decide how often you work. So if we have a 30-day month and I say I want to work 15 days out of that month, now I can know I have 15 additional days to do whatever I need to do. Or you have a certain amount of business days, or you make sure that you take off every weekend. But we can break it down even further than that. So even if I want to do 15 days of work per month, I can decide how many days a week I work. And within those days in a week, I can decide how many hours in a day that I work. That particular step 2 formula will help you decide, for all of my media creators out there, maybe what your hourly rate can be. And then you can adjust certain things that I'll discuss in step 3, but we go from taking that annual revenue, and then you want to divide that by 12. And then from dividing that by 12, you decide how how many days in a month that you want to work. From those days in a month, you decide how many days in a week. And from those days in a week, decide how many hours in the day. And that will help you not only break down how you can achieve that particular amount of money a year, but also give you a decent figure and how much you can charge per hour.
So once you figure out how much money you need to make on a granular level, how do you come up with your final rate for clients?
So what happens is this gives you a great opportunity to not only be selfish and make the money that you want, because if you look at it in like a funnel way, we just decided how we can make $100,000 for ourselves. This is what we want. But if you run a business, businesses have expenses, such as taxes, such as equipment, such as travel, such as conferences, other things that you want to do. These are things that I did not think of when I was first beginning. I could have literally charged an expense for all of the additional education that I've gotten, but I didn't know. So what I'll say is you want to take that rate. So let's just say you have the hourly rate and maybe it ended up being $50 per hour. Now that is for you, person. Then you want to also put in there for operational expenses. For all of my creators out there, this is all of the softwares that you're using on a daily basis, because that can get expenses. This is for Adobe and all those other things, operational expenses. And then you want to add in profit. Like I said earlier, we are a for-profit business, meaning that we have to make money in order to continue to do business. And this profit money is where you can take the opportunity to go and take your staff on a retreat or go and sign up for that course or go to that particular mastermind. That's where that money can come from to fund those experiences. So you take your rate, that $50 an hour for Abby. Then you times it by 3. So there's Abby, operations, and profit. And now your new hourly rate is $150.
That's really good. And when you share that with me, that was unlock. It's so simple. I think anybody can kind of figure out what they need to start charging. And even at that times 3, I'm charging a little more. That's when I did my numbers, right?
But it's
a good baseline. Exactly. But it's a good baseline to start, right? It kind of takes the guesswork out of coming up with some arbitrary number.
Let me tell you.
Or even undercharging or, taking on projects and not getting paid what you feel that you're worth.
Now, I've done that calculations for a couple of things that I was doing and looked at the number and was like, this is too low. But that is also, and I've also looked at it and been like, this is too high. So this is where you can have the flexibility to decide what you feel is actually fair for the rate. So if I'm doing an all-day shoot and I'm just like, oh, I'm not making enough money for this, you can bump it up. I think we discussed, Apple making 60% profit on the iPhone. But as a business, you can decide that you don't have to tell these businesses what your profit margins are, that you personally. But at least you know what your bare minimum is, and to be able to reach those particular goals for your person, and for your business, and for your profit. So that is where you have the opportunity to negotiate as well. But you already know going in that you're not basically undervaluing yourself and your skill level. And you have room for, growth, and you have room for negotiations should that particular client not necessarily have the funds that you have proposed to them. Another thing that I'll say is when it comes to you, so even if you do hourly, where you put together a package for a particular client and they don't have the funds or they don't want to spend that particular money, what you do is you can discount the price, but you also discount the service. So if they cannot, quote unquote, afford, maybe you have 4 different things inside of your proposal and they say, I can't afford it. Your new approach is to say, I understand. I still, really like to work with you. What if we take away this? Now the rate goes down, but also your deliverables and your responsibility. So that you can still work with that client and you can just continue to take away things until they can afford it, or you can just decide not to work together, but do not agree to do a full project for somebody at under the rate that you originally charged them. And the only way that I would even consider something like that is what we spoke about earlier, which value exchange. But if they cannot afford what you quoted them, you start taking away things, or you can present them with different package options that just has more or less to fit their budget.
That's good. And that's a good segue to my next question for you is, what financial mistakes are you seeing creators make when it comes to their pricing? And I'll share a couple that I've seen. One, I've seen them undervalue themselves and just doing projects at a discounted rate. Another one I've seen is not doing market research and competitive analysis. And we kind of talked about this just in our personal discussions, how when I started looking at what other people were charging for what I do, I realized that I was severely undervaluing myself, like almost 50%. And I think this is why your pricing strategy works, but I think in conjunction with like knowing what others create to kind of set your base, because it's like, it's just, I was kicking myself. I'm like, man, I'm charging whatever, and they're making twice as much money as me, and they're probably doing less work. And I could have like easily fixed that just by just taking a little time to do a Google search or ask around or whatever, just to find out, yo, what's the competitive rate in my industry, in my like area? Are there any other financial mistakes you see, or is that something you resonate with as well?
I say I can only talk about my mistakes, honestly. I haven't done that, right? I haven't done the market analysis on some things. I've had the opportunity to see maybe some competitive pricing for certain projects that I've completed and been grossly disappointed in the margin that was there for myself. Like, there are things that I've done way more, delivered way quicker for, and just not been necessarily happy with my result. But that's also a product of my sometimes ignorance. So I think that's a great addition to see kind of comparably what people are doing. And I think I even asked you, how are you finding these rates? And it is on Google. So I think that is a great thing that people are doing. Another mistake that I have made as well is I got business credit to be able to afford opportunities that I wanted. So the issue was the business credit should have been my profit. I should have had the actual cash for it, but I used the business credit as an extra, line of income to be able to afford, master classes or new equipment and things of that nature. But had I charged appropriately, the profit margin would have been able to compensate for that. Instead of putting myself and my business in further debt, I need to charge accordingly to be able to afford it. So it's a sense where you can get all this knowledge, but now you need to dig yourself out of a financial hole because you did not charge appropriately to get the money that you would have needed, and that would have taken care of everything. So you could use those credit cards if you needed them for something that, actually matters, or a bigger investment.
Yeah, that's good. I think another financial mistake, and we talked about this, was mixing your personal and business finances.
Don't do it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Don't do it. So I would say this, it's not difficult to get a business, account.
Right.
Get a business checking account. There's Novo. We'll put a link in the description. I use Novo. It's a great online business account. It's not difficult. Also, you just want to have those expenses. So I have a different situation right now because I live out of the country. But separating your personal and your business finances helps you when it comes to tax time. Because a lot of those things that you're using for business is a personal write-off. So let's say you are making that $100,000. You're in a different tax bracket, but your business expense $50,000. Now your personal income goes down to $50,000, and you're charged less money because your tax bracket is different. So you can literally help your personal self out with your business expenses, but making sure everything is separate so that you can have those particular benefits.
Yeah.
And you can pay less taxes when it comes down to it. So it's little things that I'm learning here and there, but definitely just being more disciplined and having, multiple accounts or 2 different accounts to be able to account for the things that you're spending personally and with your business.
I think another financial mistake that creators make is working with clients that don't value them. And I guess the question is, Charles, like, how do you know my client doesn't value me? Some of the things I've seen just in my own personal experience are clients who want to micromanage you, clients who want to ask for discounts all the time, clients who don't give appropriate feedback or communication. I think all these are indicators that your client doesn't really value you and value your services. And for me, I've learned that it's like I make more money in understanding who I shouldn't work with and being super clear on who I should work with. Is that something that you've seen as well?
Absolutely. When it comes, because humans. We're emotional beings. And when somebody is discrediting the work that you do, but you take it because you need their money, that is something that, I'll say it again. If you're going to get mistreated, just go get a regular job. At least it's steady income. You can just do something simple. But why are you literally allowing somebody to mistreat you, micromanage you, challenge your work, or have you doing 1,000 different things over and over? And then on top of that, you're undercharging? That is ridiculous. But once you get a taste of somebody valuing you, paying you what you're worth, or what you're, giving you compliments and things of that nature, you will start to differentiate the type of people that you work with. So now, from personal experience myself, I only work with a certain caliber of individuals. And that is from like the intro call. If I'm not quote unquote vibing with you, I'm not going to work with you. And it's great because I don't have to. If you have to work with people and you have to take their mistreatment, you really need to reconsider what problems you're solving and the people that you're working with, and possibly hunt for some new clients, because they'll miss you when you're gone.
I think the last financial mistake that creators make is not knowing how to communicate their pricing. And what I mean by that is that a lot of creators, when they think about what they're worth or what they should price, they think about their skill level and the technical aspects of what they do. Mm-hmm. But your client doesn't care about that. They care about how can you help them. And I think for me, the unlock was communicating my pricing in a way that focuses more on the value I bring to them rather than on like what I do.
A lot of times I will have a call with a potential client to let them know what we do. But when it comes down to the proposal and the invoice, for the most part, it still has to be itemized.
That's true, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's there for them to read on their own.
Correct.
But when I'm having conversations with them, I'm not running down, I'm not going too in depth. Like, obviously,
it's the solutions.
Right.
I'm going to create the FOMO.
Exactly.
I'm going to turn things around.
Exactly.
Practically same day.
Exactly.
I've done situations to where we look better than the host company. Mm-hmm. And people are looking around like, oh, I'm coming to you all to see what's going on. Mm-hmm. But it's creating the feel. And once they have that particular feeling, it's hard for them to let go. And that's where you create, repeat business. It might not be retainer based, but it might be biannually. It might be a couple times a year.
Right.
But you creating that particular experience, and people say they'll forget what they told you, but they'll never, forget how you made them feel. And when you make people feel cool and on video and seen and appreciated on platforms or in person, or people coming up like, oh, I saw that thing and that looks super cool. Like, that's the type of value and validation that I like to bring my particular clients. So even if they do get the itemized, I was like, oh no, I'm not worried about that. Like, Abby's going to do her thing. I don't have to worry about her on site, or I don't have to worry about, as things continue to progress, but creating that environment, that value and that environment to where they know that whatever you do charge them, that you're going to fulfill it. So I think the key is ensuring that you can deliver what you say that you're going to deliver at a high level.
We talked about that earlier. That's the key.
Because don't lie.
Don't lie.
Because that's, ooh.
We're wrapping up here. I just have a final question for you, just to make sure that, we all come away with the takeaway. What is the one thing that you want folks to take away from this conversation about pricing strategy that has really transformed your life and your business?
You're worth it. You're worth it. A lot of times we don't think that we deserve it. We don't give ourselves the opportunity or the chance or the space to be able to receive, the validation, the compensation for the skills that we work so hard to be able to attain. And once you have an opportunity to be in a space or work for a client or work for yourself and receive that validation, it changes how you work with people. It changes how you treat yourself. It changes how you travel. It changes how you eat. It changes how you treat people. It changes how you're able to provide, how you serve. I spoke with a creator the other day and I was like, if you were charging appropriately, you have the time and the space to be able to serve without the reservations that you have, because you're taken care of at home. Your business is good. So now with the time that you have, you can go and do other things for free, or do passion projects and things of that nature, because now you have the peace of mind from what you're bringing in and what you can share. So it's given me a lot more opportunity to be able to want to help other people, to look into starting a community, and to be able to just share my information with other creators who ask me questions in the DMs, because I'm not in a space where I'm trying to literally hold on to the knowledge that I have because I feel like it's valuable, but I'm not sharing with anybody to be able to receive the value. So now I can give it freely and feel good about it.
Man, Abby, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, in our personal network, I've seen you help so many people transform how they think, break through limiting mindsets when it comes to pricing. So I'm glad we can get you on here today so we can reach even more people with this wisdom and knowledge you have to share. Thanks for watching the Create with Charles podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode.